Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about Power Stones, which is basically a new system that you socket into your weapon which gives you skill modifiers. So I'd like to thank Biscuit for gathering all the screenshots and all the information for me so that I could make this video. I had heard about it when Iron Arc, which is the new raid, when it came out. I heard about this system coming out, but I didn't have any concrete information. So Biscuit had some connections in Korea and he was able to gather all these screenshots as well as the translations so that I could make this video to share with you guys. So first of all, let's talk about what the heck these Power Stones are. So these Power Stones are very simple. These Power Stones basically give you boss attack power, mystic damage. However, on top of that, they also give you skill modifiers. So you can see here on these Power Stones that they give you increased damage for your Bullet Storm by 4%. They also increase your damage by your Quick Shot, your Unload, or your Scorched Earth. You can pick which Power Stone you want, and they increase their modifiers based on what skill they are. So it's very, very nice, and it's quite a big DPS boost. However, let's talk about how do we actually get these Power Stones. Keep in mind, these will be coming onto the NA server because these are live on the Korean server already. So you'll see in this screenshot, in order to get these Power Stones, you'll have to purchase it from a vendor. You don't use N-Coin or Honmun Coin or any premium currency. The only way to get it is from these tokens that you gain for defeating the last boss in Iron Arc. So at the moment in Korea, no one actually has enough tokens to actually buy these Power Stones because it costs 100 of these tokens, and every time you clear the third boss you get 2 tokens. However, what you can do to accelerate this process is get the breakthrough weapon material. If you have the breakthrough weapon material, you can exchange that for 10 tokens from the vendor. However, most people obviously will not be doing that. A lot of people will be using their breakthrough material to actually upgrade their weapon because the DPS increase will be greater than these stones. So for the sake of curiosity, we did the math. In order to get one of these Power Stones, and if you are only depending on the Boss 3 dynamic reward, which gives you 2 every time you beat it, it'll take you a total of 50 weeks in order to buy one of these Power Stones, which is roughly around 1 year of farming. So it is a very, very, very endgame item because 1 year of investment, and it's going to take a very long time to get one of these. However, they have 2 separate Power Stones. You have Legendary Power Stones and you have Ancient Power Stones. You can tell the difference very easily by the color. The color of Legendary is the orange one we all know and love. However, Ancient is now a dark pink, dark purple kind of color. So how do we make Ancients? In order to make the Ancient, you'll actually need a Legendary Stone first, plus 100 of these tokens, plus 1,000 gold. If you're fully depending on the dynamic reward only, it's going to take you 2 years or 100 weeks. So this is a very endgame item. It's going to take ages for us to get it. So now I'm sure all of you guys want to know, what the heck do these Power Stones augment for my class? And so we're going to go through every class from the Archer all the way down to the Warlock, and we're going to look at what the Power Stones do. Before I go over the Archer all the way down to the Warlock, you can find the timestamps in the description below if you want to just skip to your class so you can check it out yourself, just to save yourself some time. So over here is the Archer. This one is the Ancient Stones, okay? So Ancient Stones are the highest tier ones. So the highest tier one for the Light Archer will increase your dart damage by 4%, as well as your Golden Eye damage by 4%. Or you can increase your Ray Strike damage by 4% or your Sunburst damage by 4%. So just keep in mind that the skill one, the dart damage, is static. All of the Power Stones will give you this dart damage increased by 4%. Only the secondary skill, which is your Golden Eye, your Ray Strike, or your Sunburst, this one you have a choice on which skill you actually want to pick, on which Power Stone. As for the regular legendary stones for the Light Archer, everything's the same, it's just dart damage is 2% instead of 4%. As for Wind Archer, it's your Wind Bolt is increased by 4%, your Rapid Shot is increased by 4%, Flip Shot increased by 6%, or Dead Eye increased by 4%. Remember, you can only pick one of these stones to equip in your weapon. You cannot equip multiple power stones into your weapon. And then this is the legendary one. Again, it's the same thing, it's just Wind Bolt is 2% damage increase instead of 4%. So next is the Assassin. The Assassin is very special because it has a third spec. So this is the third spec one. We don't know the skill names, so it's not translated. However, it increases your skills by 4% over here. So I don't know what these are because I don't know anything about the third spec Assassin and their skills. However, here is the Serpent Assassin. Serpent Assassin will increase your Heart Stab damage by 4%, your Dark Strike damage by 4%, or Choke Bomb by 6%, or Venom Slash by 6%. Again, these are the ancient ones. The regular ones is the exact same thing, but Heart Stab is by 2% only instead of 4%. Here's the Shadow Assassin. Shadow Assassin is Death from Below damage increased by 4%, Lightning Rod increased by 4%, Choke Bomb increased by 6%, Heart Stab increased by 4%. And here again is for the regular legendary stones, it's just Death from Above is 2% instead of 4%. Next is the Blade Dancer. Blade Dancer, you have Lightning Flash increased by 4%, Flicker increased by 4%, Fatal Blade increased by 6%, or Thunder Slash increased by 6%. And as for the Wind Blade Dancer, it's Rolling Typhoon increased by 4%, Sunder increased by 4%, Wind Slash increased by 8%, or Skyward Slash increased by 6%. This is for Blade Masters. Fire Blade Master is your Dragon Tongue damage increased by 4%, Lunar Slash increased by 4%, Flicker increased by 6%, or Lightning Draw increased by 6%. Lightning Blade Master is Hone Strike increased by 4%, Lunar Slash increased by 4%, One Strike 10 Cuts increased by 10%, or Flicker increased by 4%. And finally, for the Spectral Blade Master, it is Slice increased by 4%, Sword Fall increased by 4%, Falling Stars increased by 4%, or Blade Storm increased by 6%. So again, you have these choices. Remember, I'm covering the ancient stones right now. The non-ancient stones, or the regular legendary stones, it's the exact same thing. It's just that your skill 1, or Slice in this case, is increased by 2% instead of 4%. Next up is Earth Destroyers. Earth Destroyers Cleave increased by 4%, Wrath increased by 4%, Mighty Cleave increased by 4%, Smash increased by 6%. Shadow Destroyer is Eradicate increased by 4%, Gale Force increased by 4%, Ember Stomp increased by 8%, or Execute increased by 6%. Finally, the third spec, again, because we don't have English names, it is not translated, so I don't know what skills are augmented here. Next up is Fire Force Master. Blazing Beam increased by 4%, Blazing Wall increased by 4%, Meteor Shower increased by 6%, or Inferno increased by 4%. Ice FMs, Arctic Blast increased by 4%, Ice Beam increased by 4%, Avalanche increased by 6%, or Dual Dragons increased by 6%. Next up is the Fire Gunner. Fire Gunner Bullet Storm increased by 4%, Unload increased by 4%, Quick Shot increased by 4%, Scorch Earth increased by 6%. Shadow Gunner is Bullet Storm damage increased by 4%, Unload increased by 6%, Scorched Earth increased by 6%, Dark Shot increased by 4%. Fire Kung Fu Master is Blazing Fist increased by 4%, Tremor increased by 6%, Leading Palm increased by 6%, Comet Strike increased by 6%. Wind KFM is Roundhouse increased by 4%, Iron Shoulder increased by 4%, Cyclone Kick increased by 4%, or Comet Strike increased by 6%. KFM third spec is Iron Paw increased by 4%, Claw increased by 6%, Twin Palm increased by 6%, Incinerate increased by 6%. Earth Summoners is Super Sunflower damage increased by 4%, Thorn Strike increased by 4%, Flying Nettles increased by 6%, or Sunflower increased by 4%. For the third Power Stone over here, keep in mind it is Super Sunflower increased by 4% and regular Sunflower increased by 4%. For Wind Summoners, Rumble Bees increased by 4%, Thorn Strike increased by 4%, Flying Nettles increased by 6%, and Wild Nettles increased by 6%. For Earth Soul Fighters, it's Cobalt Punch increased by 4%, Dragon Fury increased by 4%, Breaking Claw increased by 4%, King Fist increased by 4%. For Ice Soul Fighter, it is Ice Helix increased by 6%, Dragon Fury increased by 4%, Frost Storm increased by 4%, or Glacial Blast increased by 4%. For Guardian Warden, it is Divine Strike increased by 6%, Sword Savior increased by 6%, Dual Barrage increased by 6%, Sonic Strike increased by 4%. For Madness spec, it is Blade Frenzy increased by 4%, Bloodstorm increased by 4%, Great Slash increased by 6%, and Seismic Strike increased by 4%. Last but not least, we've got the Warlocks. So for Ice Warlock, it is Dragon Call increased by 4%, Bombardment increased by 4%, Imprison increased by 8%, Wing Storm increased by 6%. As for Shadow Warlocks, we've got Dragon Helix increased by 4%, Dimensional Volley increased by 4%, Mortal Coil increased by 8%, and Hex Storm increased by 6%. Hopefully going through the list of every class and what their Power Stone does answers a lot of your questions out there. If you have any more questions, do let me know in the comment section below and I'll try to find the answers for you. But yeah, this is basically the next big upgrade that we're going to be getting. because it directly increases the skill modifiers of the skills that we actually use for each class. Again, I want to thank Biscuit for organizing all of this information for me in a nice and organized format so that I could present it to you guys in a video format. But yeah, hopefully this video was helpful. If it was, I would appreciate a subscribe, or if you want to go that extra mile, please consider becoming a member. Speaking about members, I'd like to thank Zillintex, Overgamers, Yatogami, Arisoya, Gonzola, Jeremy Chen, Nyana, Pearlstyle, Lina Ren, Toots McGee, Solar Hero, ST Sin 2, as well as Key for supporting the channel. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
What can I say except you're welcome for the heals, the boosts, the rest.